2022 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select
Trophy Chase, Arizona.
with the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select
Cody Smith, Houston, Texas. The fantasy draft room is now on the clock.
Welcome to the Fantasy Draft Room. I am Chase, and with me, as always, my man Cody. What do we have on store for the people today?
We got another one of these mock drafts. Been doing them every week. We're getting out here with the drafters in the rafters, and we are putting out these mocks every single week. Joining them over in the Destination Devy community, patreon.com/allgas. Our guy Dynasty Barry over there running these. Probably, I think we put out like 3 or 4 of these last week alone. I mean, we're getting so much ADP data over there with all of these drafts that they are running, Devy mocks as well. So if you want to get into these, drop comments down in the comment section below. Go join over there at patreon.com/allgas. Plug it again one more time for the brand. And then, I mean, we got the combine coming up. We're out of the NFL season. We're in a little bit of a dead period now. We just got to sit around and wait till we get the combine, but it's sooner than I thought, man. A week and a half away, something like that. I think it's the 28th that we kick off of February. So right around the corner. It's good to get into these mock drafts, though, and figure out where you should be taking these guys, where your community values these guys at.
It's going to absolutely fly by. It's already, mid-February, so football season is over. Looking forward to the Underwear Olympics. There's definitely going to be some names that are going to rise, so we'll jump into that. As we do, just as a reminder, please subscribe, and comment down below as you go through this video. Let us know how crazy we are or some of the names that you are really excited about in the 2023 class. So, got Bijan 101. Surprise.
I don't think we've done a single one without him, and this is a guy who it doesn't matter what he does at the combine. Actually, it will, for some reason, to some people actually matter what he does at the combine, because there's rumors coming out that he runs like a 4.5 plus, and some people are actually going to see that and probably drop him out of the 101 slot.
Yeah, now, as you've talked about already, like as looking at some of the running back data metrics, 40 time is the least correlative statistic to fantasy success. So don't really care, but it will matter to people. It will.
You want to hit certain thresholds, like most of these guys. If you are like, this is correlated over from like 0 to 15 points per game. Most of these guys that are going to be elite level production, they're going to hit at least some benchmark number. But Bijan Robinson hits every other benchmark. If he doesn't hit that one, he hit the other 40. So don't worry about it with Bijan Robinson.
And pretty standard for the draft that we've been in lately. Again, all assuming first round draft capital for these 4 quarterbacks. So CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis in sequence. You forced my hand into Will Levis. I really wanted that 6th slot, but I almost took JSN there. But yeah, these 4 quarterbacks. Let me ask you this, because I am curious to kind of think about this. What situation would it take for you to take one of these quarterbacks over Bijan Robinson? Like, is it team specific? Is it Bijan running like a 4.6? Like what kind of situation would pop up? Because I do find it hard to believe, but I mean, Anthony Richardson, maybe he goes top 5. Does that change?
Anthony Richardson goes 101 to the Atlanta Falcons, trading up.
That specific scenario.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it would make me think really hard if Anthony Richardson does get taken in the top 5 by any team, because that's not really what's projected right now. But if he did, it's significant capital. It's one of those things. It would make me think, right? It would at least make me debate it if my team needed quarterback and he was a guy that, I believed in at that point in the process. That would make me consider it. But right now, for me, it's Bijan. So had to throw that one out there for us.
You could also put some stuff of like very specific, like 14 team, 16 team. Then you get once you get into those, then you can take quarterback. Like depending upon your team structure and everything, you can take some quarterbacks there. But just your standard 10, 12 team superflex leagues where you're taking Bijan in almost any situation. If it arises, we'll let you know. Probably won't.
But right now, that's pretty standard. So you took JSN at the 6th slot there, followed by Gibbs, Addison, QJ, Kendre, Charbonnet, and Michael Mayer. It seems pretty close to the first rounds we've been seeing so far. Any complaints about any of this? Anyone you want to jump into? Looking at the combine.
No, I think it'll be interesting. The guy that I took here is my wide receiver one currently, JSN. There's concerns that he's not going to be as athletic. He's not going to test as well athletically as a lot of other guys are. I mean, your Jalen Hyatts, guys like that are just going to burn and fly. They're going to tear up the combine just purely statistically. Yep. From everything we've been hearing, JSN isn't that type of guy. He's a guy that wins by running good routes. He's a guy that wins by finding the zones in the defense. He's more of a technical skills guy than he is just an athletic skills guy. The traits. He's not one of those guys from everything we've heard. I still think he's good enough to be the wide receiver one, but if the numbers are bad enough, it could probably get some people to start looking at him as potentially the third wide receiver out of this top elite group that we're seeing between Addison, Quentin Johnston, and JSN.
Yeah, I think QJ is going to be a fun one at the combine. He's a freak, man. Like, he's athletic, he's big, he's fast. Like, he's going to test very well. So yeah, I do think it matters for JSN kind of what he does. He may not do anything though. Like, I will be interested to see come that time if he actually does participate in the 40-yard dash. What he all participates in. I think he's good enough. He should be fine. Speaking of combine, Kendre Miller. Obviously, we're both excited about him. There are some people in different draft circles that actually have him really low, closer to RB10 in this class, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. But it's possible that draft capital aligns, and he sprained his MCL, and there is concern that he comes back too early, pushes himself to compete at the combine. I'm interested to see what he does as well if he decides to actually participate in that 40-yard dash or in any of the drills as well.
Yeah, he's a guy that just needs to show out. He just needs to show out athletically okay for me to be pretty still in on Kendre Miller. Obviously, I think he was 6'1" or 6'2", 220 or something like that. Yeah. I mean, he's got the size, he's got the build, but he needs to run not like a 4.6 or something like that, and run a good 3-cone, do some good stuff there. But it should be okay with Kendre Miller. Zach Charbonnet is also in kind of that same boat where he's just another one of those big bowling ball type guys. You want to see him run well, not be just super slow. He does obviously on film lack some just pure breakaway speed. I heard on the Athletic Pod today, he's going to be a guy that won't be hitting home runs at the next level, but he can sure hit a damn lot of doubles for an offense. And I agree with that to a T. He is very good, but he just he's not going to take an 80-yarder to the house. It's just not his game. He's going to run over and around you for 20 yards at a time. So it'll be interesting to see how he tests as well. Mayer, I think there's rumors that Mayer might not test because he's just shown everything that he has to show. Like, whenever you put up that level of production in college, why would you? Will you have any reason to actually go out there and try to prove anything if you do think you might be a little bit slower than some of these guys that are, Kincaids and Musgraves of the world?
Yeah, he put a stamp on it already, production and what he's done, and his film speaks for itself as far as what he can do as a blocker. Yeah, why at this point? Why? You have nothing left to prove. You're going to be a first-round pick. That's it. Bottom line, there's nothing for you to do. So, yeah, I do think there's a lot more excitement about these running backs, as far as how they test. I'm going to pull up the second round as we do that, because Charbonnet, Kendre, like we talk about their size. I am interested in some of the weight, just to see where Gibbs does weigh in at, if he's closer to 200, different things like that. Devon Achane is the fifth running back off the board here, comes off at the 202, and he's a burner. Like, he's going to absolutely torch at the combine. He's a track star. Like, this is his specialty. So yeah, he's going to tear it up, but I want to see what his weight is, and I'm going to see what kind of excitement people get, around him because of the speed size combo.
Yeah, what you don't want to see is him come in and weigh or measure in at 5'9", 175. If that happens, it's done. Like, the fantasy community will be fully out. Yep. What you want to see is him come in at 5'9", 185, 190. If he can do that, kind of like what we thought Tyjae Spears was going to be a lot smaller than he was whenever he weighed in at the Senior Bowl. That's the type of that is the only performance that is probably going to matter for Devon Achane at the combine, is just how he weighs in. Because there are rumors that like if he was still like track speed, he's probably running a 4.2 track speed and size. So 4.240. So hey, maybe if he does even weigh in small and he runs a 4.240, people will still lose their minds over it because that's insane. But it's going to be a very big day for Devon Achane. Hopefully he weighs in big there as well.
Yeah, some of the big days, we got the wide receivers here. You have Josh Downs, Kayshon Boutte, Jalen Hyatt, Zay Flowers. And those are the only 4 wide receivers in this round. And it's kind of the last of that tier in a way, right? And Josh Downs could be one of the fastest wide receivers in this class, along with Jalen Hyatt and Zay Flowers. Like those 3 are going to run quick. Like they're going to put up very good numbers. You're going to have some hype around them. And this is Kayshon Boutte's time. Like this is his opportunity to, interview well, like forget the on the field, numbers that he's going to have to put up as well athletically, but he's a very athletic, guy who should measure out well and do very well in the combine. So I think this is a very big week for him in general to see if he can boost some of his draft stock, because there's some questions about him off the field.
There's questions about him off the field, and there's questions on the field. His production was nowhere near up to snuff for what it should be, for what a lot of people had as their wide receiver 1 going into the college season last year. So he's got to answer questions of why he didn't produce, and he's got to answer the questions that have come along off the field as well, from him potentially sitting out to going back to the situation that all happened there. If you want to go look into that yourself, you can, and then eventually re-declaring for the NFL draft. So he's definitely got a big week ahead of him, probably more in just the personal interviews that he's going to have to do with these coaches and explaining himself. The other guys are the ones that are going to have to test, though, right? We want to see Josh Downs and Zay Flowers come in with the height, come in with the weight that we want for these guys. And then Jalen Hyatt is going to have to run his 40, because that's what all of the NFL is wanting him for. It's just to take the top off the defense and open up the stuff underneath.
Yeah, man, I don't know. We'll see what Jalen Hyatt actually does. I don't know if it's going to make me any more interested in him. It just feels very like, and I know play style wise it's different, but it feels like Kevin White. Like Kevin White when he came out of West Virginia, and just burner, and you just talk about speed, taking the top off, big play potential, and like I get burnt. John Ross, like all these speed guys, right? Those types they always worry me. And I'm not saying he's just a burner. I don't want to categorize him as that, but it feels kind of that way.
It does, man.
Kind of that way.
It does. It's why I'm not in on guys ever like your Mecole Hardmans, your DJ Charks, all of these guys. They play a massive role for the NFL. Typically don't produce for fantasy. So we'll see what Jalen Hyatt does, what he weighs in at. I'm more interested in what his landing spot is and what I would project his role at in the NFL, more so than I am really about Jalen Hyatt's combine itself.
Yep. I'm with you there. So we have Luke Musgrave, tight end 2 off the board, and we're going to jump into a cluster of running backs here. 6 guys of Sean Tucker, Tyjae Spears, Kenny McIntosh, Roschon Johnson, Tank Bigsby, and Izzy Abanikanda.
Woo! You got it.
Oh, it only took 5 to get it right.
This is a moment. This is a moment here on TFTR. We finally got Abanikanda's name right. It's going to come out that it's actually pronounced way differently at the combine or something now, but you'll have to relearn it again. We'll take another 11 episodes. But out of this group of guys, is there one at the combine that you think would actually matter the most or has the most writing on it?
One of my favorite running backs coming into the season, and I'm so excited for him. Sean Tucker. Like he's going to put on, I feel like he's going to put on a show. I hope he puts on a show for his case, because there's lots of rumors of him being a 3rd, 4th, 5th round running back in the NFL draft. And if that happens, situation will matter a lot at that point for me to want to invest in him. But man, he has a lot to gain, I feel like, from this. Tyjae Spears already did his thing at the Senior Bowl, should come out and do pretty well with this. But I feel like Sean Tucker of this group has a lot to gain, and has the biggest bump you could probably see of this group.
Yeah, I'd agree. The production just wasn't there in his senior year, and so he's going to have to test well for some of these NFL teams and NFL scouts to maybe buy back into him, because he was a guy that we were very excited about this year, and it just didn't come to fruition. So I do think that Sean Tucker has a very big one. I'd like to see Tyjae Spears, if he can just do exactly what he did at the Senior Bowl. That's it. You don't even have to do anything else, I don't think, anymore. Just go into your interviews, do exactly what you did at the Senior Bowl, and go through that process, and I think you're fine. The one guy that I would also say has a pretty big day here, I just don't know if it's going to come. I don't know if he's going to be able to put it all together, is Tank Bigsby. He's a guy that I don't think he's going to test well. Just from what I've seen, from what I've heard, from some of the secondhand stuff that we get to hear at this low level here. I just don't think he's overly athletic, and I don't think there was enough on the film and enough production for me to really get excited about Tank.
Yeah, and I feel like that combination with the fact that he's not that big either, right? Like he's going to be right around that 200, maybe 205 mark, and that's okay weight and all, but to combine that with the speed numbers, I feel like we're going to see, and his lack of agility, I guess. I'm interested to see how it pans out for him, but I feel like he's a name you could see disappear. Abanikanda, though, burner, right? Like he's going to, he's going to be a guy that people don't really talk about a lot, at least as far as fantasy circles don't really know, a ton about him. But that could be a guy that you're going to be talking about after the combine. Where like, wow, that guy stood out. He looked like he belonged. So interested to see how that results for him too. Again, combine, it's all about your speed numbers, your athletic ability, and that's what's going to pop, and that's what's going to stick in the minds of your fantasy league mates.
Yep, it's going to be the only thing we can talk about here for the next. I think we got like a 3-month gap or something, or 2.5 month gap between the combine and the combine and the NFL draft. And that's all we get to talk about for all of that time, is just dive into those stats. What did he run? What was his 3-cone? What was his bench press? What were the interview processes look like for all of these guys? They would just get to take in all of that data from the NFL. And some of these guys, like probably Izzy, who figures to test pretty well, in my opinion, could be on the rise. But yeah, this is just the group where we have all of these guys. We're going to see it here at the start of the third round too. I think it was Noah Hills who put out a tweet earlier today that I saw, where he was like collecting a list of all of the top 5 rankings that he's seen across the industry, and there's like 18 different running backs who people have had listed as as one of their top 5. So everybody's got their guys, and I think people are going to settle into their roles once we do get to this combine here.
Yeah, I mean, and as I pulled up the third round here, you see, 3 more running backs, 4 or 5, 6 more running backs, but really that first start, you have Chase Brown, Zach Evans. I know, everyone, Zach Evans in the third. Oh my goodness. But it's kind of where he belongs. It's kind of rightfully earned, right? Like his combine is going to be intriguing.
I mean, you run fast, he'll weigh big.
Way big.
Really big. Measuring big, I guess, is more of where I was going with that one. But yeah, man, we try not to get too biased here, but I'm gonna have a very hard time getting over my negative bias of Zach Evans. Hopefully, hope for him, he shows out there. I just don't think it's going to happen for Zach.
Yeah, I do. I said earlier today, I feel like I'm going to end up owning a lot more Zach Evans, because he's going to fall into this range in some of these drafts. And if he goes higher than that, then I'm feel free. You guys can, someone else can take that risk. Who knows? Maybe you can convince me with landing spot. But at this point, until he lands on an NFL team with draft capital, I don't know that I care. And if I do care, it's not going to push me up much. Like he's not ever going to go in any situation where he's like above the 208. Like I don't think I'm ever going to take him over the 208, 207 range. Ever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what comes out of the combine, but like legitimately, I'll see him at like the 110, the 2-2. Like I don't think if you're not playing in kind of like the circles that we run with, where we don't have a lot of Zach Evans hype. That there's a lot of Zach Evans hype out there though. Like people have him as their RB3. And so we'll see if that changes post combine. I personally think it will. But man, if he tests well, it's going to be one that's going to be hard for me to move off my bias there.
I mean, as you mentioned earlier, that there were 18 different,
Yep.
running backs to crack the top 5 of people's rankings. I mean, and truthfully, like it's basically, I know you'd say there's 3, but it's kind of like 1 and 2 is pretty much delineated. And maybe you can include 3 as Charbonnet. But after that, like even if you include Charbonnet, everyone else you could see going up or down and round, in any order based on draft capital, landing spot, and then obviously the combine is going to matter for these guys as well. So a lot of movement, but that's also to say that these guys are quality players. Like a lot of them are quality players. Some were higher on than others, but yeah, man. I mean, even Dwayne McBride has cracked top 5 of people's lists.
Yep.
we've seen Eric Gray out of Oklahoma crack top 5s, and he's going here in the 3-9. So lots of different guys there to kind of explore.
Yeah, running backs, we have so much more information to take in with all these guys.
Yeah.
Lists are going to be highly volatile everywhere you go, everywhere you look. Like you said, outside of Bijan and Gibbs, who are pretty much locked into everybody's top 5s. I don't think I've seen any lists without those 2. Everywhere else you look, you're going to have variations. Let's move off the running backs, though, and start talking about the one guy that has fallen here from the previous mocks that we've done, Rashee Rice, falling all the way to the 3-1 because of some negative Senior Bowl buzz.
Yeah, he didn't stand out like people wanted him to. It wasn't like he was awful, but it wasn't like he separated himself and made himself look like he was that guy. Like there were other guys there that clearly looked like Tank Dell, looked like he belonged more than Rashee Rice. And again, he's not that type of flashy receiver like Tank Dell is. So I think right now he's falling, and it seems like with his draft capital expectation of being late 2nd, 3rd round type guy. I mean, I have seen him go in the 1st round as well. So I mean, there's a lot of differences with these, NFL mock drafts, and I know it's very hard when you're putting out 7-round mocks. It is hard. Like that is tough work. So when you have a range of late 1st, 2nd round, 3rd round draft pick, I think I've even seen him go in the 4th round. When the range of outcomes is that drastic for Rashee Rice, like I'm just like, I don't know if I'm really all that excited. And truthfully, once you have that first group of 7, even 6, it's a tear break for me. I like Rashee Rice. Like I did, like he was in my top 5 early on the process, but I definitely think there's some stuff I need to reevaluate with him, and looking at some of these guys there's just some opportunity here for him to rise or drop. And it seems like most likely he's falling out of that top 5.
Yeah, it does seem like he's going there. Could salvage it with a good combine, though. I mean, if he goes out there, balls out at the combine, people will forget that he was ever even in the Senior Bowl by the time we get to draft season. So,
absolutely right.
It'll be an interesting one to monitor as we go through this part. I was looking to see if we were going to get Dalton Kincaid at the combine. I know he was dealing with a injury that held him out of the Senior Bowl, so I doubt he actually does participate at the combine.
Yeah.
But another guy that is very, very athletic at the tight end position, does have more production than Luke Musgrave type, but Luke Musgrave probably comps as a better true athlete than Dalton Kincaid. And there's the injury concerns. So maybe he goes to the combine, doesn't participate, but does some of the medicals there if he's feeling good enough about where he is along the process at this point. One to monitor as we approach this over the next week and a half. And then past that, we can talk about the last little group of running backs: Dwayne McBride, Deuce Vaughn, Eric Gray. But all of those guys, I mean, they're going to serve more of a NFL role. I think, like you said, there's a little bit of a tier break whenever we get past this Dalton Kincaid pick at the middle of the 3rd here. And then moving into the wide receivers, Marvin Mims and Xavier Hutchinson here. Just 2 guys that are going to have to test well to be really anything for fantasy, in my opinion.
Yeah, draft stock is going to matter for these guys. And I feel like that's landing spot. Again, there's not a lot of if you watched our free agent episode, you're going to see that there's not a lot of free agents on the market, not a lot of cut candidates or trade candidates. Like there's just not a lot at the wide receiver position. So there's a good chance these guys could end up as number twos on a team or get the opportunity for snaps, right? Like, and that's what we want in fantasy is on the field opportunity to get the ball in your hands. I don't know what they're going to look like in the NFL. The hit rate for third round wide receivers is okay. It's not great, and it seems like that's the range they're going to go in. Maybe they sneak into the second just because of necessity at the position. But I just don't. I don't know. I don't really see them projecting in that role where I'm uber excited about drafting them. I don't see them making it into the second in any of my drafts.
No, I mean, it'd be fantastic if Deuce Vaughn could just come in and have hit a growth spurt over the last couple months, though. Like, just if Deuce Vaughn could just come in 5'11", 200 somehow, even though it's literally physically impossible. It'd make me so happy because I do love Deuce, the prospect, and from everything I've heard, kid's just great, but probably just won't have the size. Last two here, Darnell Washington, I think it's going to matter. He's going to test. He's going to come in at 6'7", 265 or something like that. And people are probably going to start losing their minds over it. What I'm interested to see is, from what we've been hearing, is that he has a good chance of being converted to tight end, or from tight end to possibly inline blocking more predominantly or only at this point.
Yeah.
And I think we could start to hear a lot more whispers about whether that's actually going to be the case or whether he could still play outside. We could start to hear rumors about that, of teams saying, hey, we really like this guy, but we like him as a right tackle or something like that. If that starts to happen, I think you'll see kind of the consensus of the community start being like, oh no, this is people start bailing. But it's the reason why we're probably a little bit lower than consensus on him right now.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, if something like that does come out. It does seem like he's going to get drafted as a tight end, but he will be drafted in the, most likely the first round or early second. And it's because of his blocking. Like, even if they don't convert him to tackle or to, into a lineman, they are going to keep him in to block. Like he would, put him in a situation where he can run block and then flare out when they're on the goal line and use his monster size to out jump a linebacker. Like, that's what it feels like. Ray said it best when it seems like it's like Mercedes Lewis, where he's just a big dude who can block, and when he needs to catch a pass, he's capable.
Yeah, it's not, in our opinion, kind of like George Kittle's an incredible inline blocker, but he's also a just overall fantastic tight end.
Yeah.
And so that's just not what we're comping here for Darnell Washington. Last guy I do actually want to touch about here, Hendon Hooker. He actually, in my opinion, is going to smash at the combine because he is going to obviously not test. He's still recovering from his ACL, but apparently from everything he was saying, from what I heard from him at Media Row, whenever he was doing interviews there for the pre-Super Bowl, apparently he was going around. Everything that he's saying is that his medicals have him on track to be back on the field and participating by training camps.
Wow.
And apparently I've also heard reports that from everybody, I watched a good amount of Hendon Hooker doing video or doing interviews at the at Media Row. He is just impeccable, leadership skills, the way he communicates, the way he talks football, the way he loves football, just putting everything to get back on this field. I think he's going to be a massive riser from the NFL Combine, even though he won't even step on the field.
That's what happens when you're 40. You have those leadership abilities. No,
he's had time to mature.
He's had time to mature. No, but you're right. I feel like he would be a riser, and he's someone that you talk about if he didn't get hurt, what could have been with Hendon Hooker. And so maybe he's getting the knock, and if he does get an opportunity or gets into a landing spot where he has the potential to either compete for a job or take over a job for whatever, an aging vet or, whatever incumbent situation you have, I think I'm going to own some Hendon Hooker. If I'm going to be able to get him in the third rounds, I think you will, unless he does get some good draft capital and some good hype leading in. But yeah, you're right. He will be a riser. I don't think he's going at the back half of the third unless he absolutely, gets shit on in the NFL draft.
Yeah. And I mean, I've consistently seen him mocked either second or third round at worst.
Yeah.
And I think he could even get higher. Like at worst, in my opinion, he's coming into a situation, if everything medically checks out, like a Desmond Ritter, like a Matt Corral. And if that's the case, I will want to own some Hendon Hooker. Because I think he's better than those guys as well.
It will be a fun situation to monitor, especially with the landing spot, regardless of draft capital. I feel like if he gets an opportunity, he could show his stuff. We'll see what that means for him, like what actual talent he has to be in the NFL. But yeah, a fun name to watch, and getting a value at quarterback is always a win in fantasy. Like if you're able to get a QB2 eventually in the third round of a rookie draft, like it's just a steal. You absolutely love that. So let's hop here into the fourth round, wrap this thing up. Parker Washington, Mo Ibrahim, Puka Nakua, Tucker Kraft. We actually have Tillman going all the way in the fourth round here.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett, Tank Dell, you got him. I took Elijah Higgins, Dontavius Wicks. Wrapping this thing up here, like Jalen Reed and
Jaden Reed, Raheem Jarrett. Yeah. I mean, bunch of dart throw guys. Some of these guys you're going to see test well, and they're going to start to rise up into the back of the third. They're probably going to be in that like Marvin Mims range. Does Tank Dell test well again? Does he come in at a good size? It goes everything against my personal process to actually be drafting Tank Dell, but I figured it was too far.
Fourth round.
Yeah, take the stab, take the dart throw. Bennett is going to be, I think there was like, I forget who I was listening to this morning. They were saying like Sam Bennett might be the 5 smallest QBs to ever weigh in at the combine.
Wow.
Because he's smaller than he's smaller than Bryce Young.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he's out of jail. No, he is. But yeah, no, Stetson is going to be a fun one to kind of track it as well and see what kind of draft capital he gets if he goes into a situation where he can Brock Purdy his way onto the field at some point. But yeah, if he's going to be that small.
Yeah,
he might be a UDFA.
We'll see. I don't think so, just because like you can't. It's hard to win a natty and be UDFA.
True.
But any guys that like you think could really rise up stocks here? Any guys that you think would stand out here? I think Tank Dell for me. Mo Ibrahim, I want to see medicals on him show up well and possibly test well. I love Mo and how he runs, but I don't think it's going to happen for him. And then Parker Washington, there's a little bit of NFL buzz around. Those would be my 3 that I'd kind of be highlighting here.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the combine coming up here, Reed, Jarrett, Dell, like they're all going to have stuff to prove. And if they're fast, if they can show off some of their actual abilities and stand out in the wide receiver group, I feel like wide receiver has the most possibility to rise, just because it doesn't. I don't want to say it's a bad. I mean, it's not a great wide receiver class.
It's not deep.
Yeah, it's not very deep. So the opportunity to move up is definitely there. And so if some of these guys, Tank Dell has been rumored to actually get second round NFL draft capital. If that happens, that's exciting. I don't know about Reed or Jarrett getting that potential. Tillman sounds like he's going to be a third rounder. I do think in the fourth, at least at this point, is a bit low. I feel like he will end up being a third rounder in your rookie drafts. Tucker Kraft potentially, because he's going to be a first or second round, most likely a second round tight end. And depending on the situation that he lands into, you could see him rise up the boards. It's the fourth round, right? Like these are dart throw possibilities. Draft capital means a lot. How well they perform, like there's a lot on the line for some of these guys where they could actually fall out and we won't be even drafting or talking about these guys, or they could, stick in that third round range and we'll be taking them in the third after that chunk of running backs.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I mean, you're going to see some guys rise up, and you're never going to see some guys drafted again after we get out of this.
Yep, very true. So, anything else?
No, man, I'm ready for this combine, man. We've been saying these names, talking the same stories about these guys for a while. I'm ready to get some new information, some new new things we can talk about here with some of these guys, other than just production that they put on the field. It'd be interesting to see the full list of names who are going to be there, going to be going, actually participating in the drills. All these tight ends as well. That's another group that will be really interesting to see, because that is a very deep room, very deep class. You could see guys like a Sam Laporta being up here in the middle of the third by the time we get to, NFL draft. I mean, maybe even second if some team reaches on him in the first. Maybe he's the guy you're taking at the back of the second, like a Luke Musgrave I could see here. So very, very excited for the process. We'll be doing these mocks again, though. So if you want to jump into those, like I said, we'll plug it one more time, patreon.com/allgas, or comment below. We can run some of these as well if we get enough people, and we can get, maybe some people that are not in this community specifically, because we do see a lot of, the same picks, the same people. Sometimes it's good to get some fresh blood in here. So maybe hit us up. We'll try to get one of these going on our own or something.
Absolutely. Yep. Please please subscribe. I know we're going to see some Zach Evans love. Don't hate us. He went where he went. This is just the difference in communities. But yeah, please let us know where you would be taking Zach Evans. Let us know if there's some of these guys that went way too high or way too low for your liking, or maybe some of your sleepers for this 2023 class. Again, subscribe, and thank you again for joining us here in the Fantasy Draft Room.